Hey, how you doing? It's me, Nick Digilio. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Thanks for checking out all my stuff there. I've got a podcast, the Nick D Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Check out radiomisfits.com or Google the Nick D Podcast. It's available on every platform, your Amazons, your Apples, your Spotifys, all of them. And new episodes are every Tuesday and every Friday on the of the Nick D Podcast. And I have a new podcast coming out in January all about Saturday Night Live called That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years, an SNL podcast. And that starts in January. Also, you can check me out on the Steve Cochran Show every other Friday morning, sometimes even more, on WLS AM 890 mornings, weekday mornings, 5:30 to 9 a.m. It's the best morning drive show in Chicago without any competition whatsoever. And I appear on it, reviewing movies and hanging out with Steve and the gang. There you go. You can also check me out on Patreon. I hope you do. It would be really cool if you donated a little dough. It helps out. It's the Christmas time, Christmas spirit. Give a little help. It helps keep the videos going, the podcasts going, all that cool stuff. I don't make a dime on any of this stuff. So if you want to help out, that'd be cool. Patreon.com/NickD Show. Okay, it is the end of the year. And I got back into the movie review game. I dove right back into it with my podcast, with this YouTube channel, with Steve Cochran's show, back on reviewing movies regularly. So I'm back with the Chicago Film Critics Association, and I am back reviewing movies on a regular basis and going to press screenings and seeing all the movies and all that stuff. So as a result, I've seen every single movie that is eligible for 2002 already, and it is December 9th. And as of like 2 days ago, I've seen every 2022 release. So therefore, it is time to do the best of lists and the worst of lists. I've been doing this for over 37 years. I've been a professional film critic for 37 years. So that means, 37 lists, top 20 lists of best and worst every year. It's always a lot of fun to put those lists together, and, they generate a lot of conversation and arguments and fun and talk, and you get to tell people about movies that maybe they haven't seen before, or just agree with everybody about some of the great, big, unbelievable movies that come out each year. Well, I am going to tell you my favorite movies of 2022. That's what this video is about. It's on my YouTube channel, as you can tell. It's on the Patreon channel. There is also a link on my Facebook page with all the posters and all the stuff like that. And I will be discussing it with my cohorts, Eric Childress and Steve Procopi, on January 6th. The first edition of the movie review segment of the new year. We are going to go back and look at all of our favorite films and worst films from 2022. That'll be on the Nick D Podcast, January 6th. But right now, for you and for everyone, this video is about the best movies of 2022. I thought that this year was great. I thought that 2022 was a fantastic year for movies, but an unusual one in the way that I saw them, meaning that there are a lot of movies that people really loved this year that I didn't. And when I do a video for the worst movies of the year, you will see that. It's very strange, but a lot of the movies that I loved this year that you will hear about as I rattle up my list, I'm going to tell you about a bunch of movies that I really loved, and I'm going to count down the top 20 best movies of 2022. That's what this video is, the 20 best movies of the year. You'll see that a lot of the movies that I've included on my list are not on a lot of other year-end lists. A lot of my colleagues, a lot of critics, a lot of awards circles and associations have not really praised the movies that I loved. So there are a lot of movies on the list I'm about to tell you, my favorite movies of the year, that don't appear on any other lists, that a lot of people hated or didn't see. And when I do my worst list, when I tell you about the worst movies of 2022, a good portion of those movies have ended up on people's favorite lists. So 2022, being a great year, in my opinion, for movies, was a year where the majority of people loved movies that I fucking hated. And the majority of movies that I loved, most people either never heard of or didn't like at all. It's just very weird. So my list, the list that I'm about to tell you of the best movies of 2022, is an unusual one, I guess. Not to me, makes perfect sense to me, but to a lot of my colleagues and a lot of fellow critics and a lot of moviegoers, this is a list where people are going to go, huh? And when I reveal my top 20 worst movies of 2022, a lot of people are going, wait a minute. these movies are on a lot of people's favorite lists. Well, I'm sorry. A lot of great movies that the critics liked this year sucked ass. I'm just telling you the truth. So anyway, I love making the lists. It's always a lot of fun. And I want your feedback too. Please leave it here on the YouTube channel or leave it on Patreon after, of course, you donate some money. $3 a month. Hey, what can you lose? And on our podcast and stuff like that. If you want to leave your thoughts, we have a phone number where you can leave a voicemail 24/7 for the Nick D podcast, and it's 773-417-6948. Okay? So leave your thoughts on your favorite movies or least favorite movies. Your thoughts on, hey, Nick, I never heard of 90% of the movies on your list. Or, hey, Nick, when my worst list comes out, hey, Nick, aren't those considered some of the best movies of the year? Yeah, they are, if you're nuts. All right, let's get to it. Just to give you a quick run-up, I liked a lot of movies this year. I'm going to tell you, about the top 20. I'll give you some details and why I liked the top 20. But I wanted to give you a bunch of titles that I really like. Now, here are 20 titles that I wanted to mention. So there's 40 movies altogether that I'm mentioning here. 40 movies that I really liked or loved. Like, these are the 40 best movies, without question, of the 200-some movies that I saw in 2022. These are the 40 that are great. These are the 40 that are either really, really good or great. The best movies of 2022, these are the 40. Now, let me give you 20 titles right here. I'll just rattle through them. Here are 20 titles of movies that I really loved that did not make my top 20. So these are in no particular order. They're in no particular order. They are just movies that I really, really, really liked that just didn't make it into the top 20 best. But these are terrific movies that you should seek out, that you should watch, that you should look up, that you should Google, that you should definitely check out. These are 20 absolutely terrific movies from 2022. And here they are, in no particular order. Babylon, Jackass Forever, Senior, which is the documentary that Robert Downey Jr. and another guy made about Robert Downey Sr., Hatching, an insane horror movie, Watcher, another really terrific suspense horror movie, Mad God, an incredibly weird animated film, Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, which featured the best performance Emma Thompson has ever given. She won't get acknowledged for it because, jagoffs like Michelle Yeoh and Cate Blanchett are going to win all the awards, even though they don't fucking deserve them for either of those dumbass movies. Wait till you hear my worst of list. But anyway, Good Luck to You, Leo Grand. Official Competition. One of the funniest movies of the year. One of the best foreign films of the year. Terrific performances by Antonio Banderas and Penelope Cruz. Great satire. This is Gwar, one of the best documentaries of the year. Fantastic documentary about Gwar. Resurrection, another terrific, creepy little horror movie with yet another incredible performance by Rebecca Hall. And Tim Roth is great in it too. Beast, one of the most flat-out, suspenseful, awesome, adventure, suspense, incredible movies. Idris Elba and a goddamn lion. Awesome. Clerks 3, I don't care. I loved it. Moon Age Daydream, another documentary, music documentary about David Bowie, really terrific. The Woman King, one of the best action movies of the year with a terrific performance by Viola Davis. Bros, the first big budget studio gay rom-com that was ignored by the straight public because they're assholes. Billy Eichner wrote it. It's terrific. Bros. Dead for a Dollar, a low budget but really wonderful little western that Walter Hill made this year that you should check out. Amsterdam, a movie that everybody hated that I loved. David O. Russell's terrific movie with Christian Bale and Margot Robbie, Rami Malek, John David Washington. A really terrific movie that everybody hated. Raymond and Ray with Ethan Hawke and Ewan McGregor as brothers who have to bury their father, literally. Loved it. Return of Tanya Tucker with Brandi Carlile, great documentary, and Benicio del Toro. No, sorry, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, one of the most beautifully animated films of the year, and a terrific, terrific, fresh take on that story. So those are 20 movies that I loved, and in no particular order. Now here are my top 20 movies of 2022, and these are in order of preference. So I will start at number 20. And I will work my way. Up from number 20. Number 20 is Confess, Fletch. Confess Fletch. I thought it was the funniest movie of the year. I thought that John Hamm was terrific in it. It was Greg Martolo's fantastic new adaptation of the Fletch books. Obviously, the movie's made famous in the '80s by Chevy Chase. This had an incredible cast. It was without question the funniest movie of the year. It had some of the greatest sort of supporting performance. This is a movie where not only was John Hamm great as Fletch, and not only, in my opinion, is it the best Fletch movie of all time, and yes, I'm including the original Fletch. And not only was it just one of the most flat-out entertaining, just most fun 2 hours you could have watching a movie all year long, but the cast was so great, and everybody in it had room to shine. Like Greg Mottola, the director and the writer, let every single cast member have at least 5 really hilarious moments. Like, this is ensemble comedy at its best, directed brilliantly. I love Confess Fletch. So Confess Fletch, another movie that nobody really loved as much as I did. I think flat out funniest movie of the year, one of the just simplest, most entertaining 2 hours you will have watching a movie this year. So number 20 on my list of the best movies of 2022 is Confess Fletch. Number 19 is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Another comedy, but this was like a horror murder satire of Gen Y. And Gen Z. And this movie rips the shit out of anybody who is in their early 20s. It demolishes the Gen Z early 20s folks that are out there. It's about a group of people, a group of girls and a few guys that get together to party at a big estate during a hurricane. The lights go out and they are playing a murder mystery game called Bodies, 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 and then deaths actually happen. And it is kind of a horror movie. It's from A24, one of the best studios ever. And it is quirky and funny, and Pete Davidson and a bunch of other people are in it. And it's terrific. And all the young girls in it, the girls that are in their early 20s who are the main characters in it, they're all terrific. The performances are great. It is weird, and it's dark, and it's scary, and it's a mystery, and you don't know what's going on. And it has, without question, the funniest last 5 minutes I've seen in a movie all year. Like, I don't know if I've laughed harder at anything, more. And I've laughed at a lot of stuff. There's been some very, very funny stuff in movies this year, but I don't know if I've laughed harder, like scream laugh to the point where I was doubled over, than I did during the last 5 minutes of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. The last 5 minutes of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is ridiculously, brilliantly, awesomely, tear-inducing hilarity. Brilliant. I loved it. Great satire, great little horror movie. Bodies, 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 number 19. Another movie that is not popping up on anybody's list. Number 18 is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Probably my favorite animated movie of the year. Jenny Slate obviously has been providing the voice for this wonderful little stop-motion character that has been in videos and, online and has been viral for many years. They finally made a full-length movie out of it, and it's as wonderful and as funny and as touching and as sweet and as cute as you can possibly imagine. So Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. If you know the character, you probably love it. And if you've not seen the movie, you should. Number 18 is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Number 17, the 17th best movie of 2022, is another horror movie, and this is a German horror film, German-French horror film called You Won't Be Alone, which is, on the surface, it's about witches. It's a story about a witch spirit that is moving between different bodies and making its way, possessing different beings and bodies and animals. And it's about this movement of this evil sort of witch spirit that is moving from body to body to body. And it's called You Won't Be Alone. And this was one of the most surprising horror movies. It was a great year for horror, by the way. A really, really great year for horror. And you'll see there's more horror movies on my list as we go on, like a bunch of horror movies. But this one was one of the most beautiful and artful. I've often described You Won't Be Alone, which, by the way, is out there. You can find it streaming. I think it's, on VOD. I'm not sure what streaming or networks it's on, but I know it's on DVD, too. It's called You Won't Be Alone. It is a foreign film. And Nomi Rapace is in it, and a bunch of other actors and actresses that are Germany and from Switzerland and from France. And it is, like I said, it's about the spirit of an evil witch that goes from body to body to body in the 1800s. But the way I've been describing this movie is if Terrence Malick were to make a genre horror film, this would be it. Now, if you're familiar with Terrence Malick's work, you know that they're visual poetry, that sometimes there's a lot of beautiful sort of poetic voiceovers and incredible images that don't really connect to any kind of regular narrative structure. It's not a linear story by any means. You don't follow point A to point B to point C in a Terrence Malick movie. It's very randomly beautiful shots that are very poetic, and very random and just beautiful, like a stream of consciousness poem. That's what You Won't Be Alone is. You Won't Be Alone is like a creepy period witch supernatural thriller seen through the eyes of someone directing like Terrence Malick would. So You Won't Be Alone is number 17 on the best of list. Number 16 of the best movies of 2022 is All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, which is the best documentary of the year. And this is about Laura Poitras directed it. And it is about a famous photographer and her life story, and how she photographed some really alternative, crazy stuff in the 70s, especially in the Andy Warhol early days of the 60s, New York, that kind of stuff, and about her coming out, her dealing with her sex, and her dealing with her life, and also about boycotting big companies that actually have wings named after them in museums. It's a very powerful documentary. It's not only a great portrait of an artist, but it's also a great portrait of taking on big business. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, a terrific movie. That's number 16. Number 15 is The Northman. The Northman, Robert Eggers' follow-up to The Lighthouse. It's a goddamn Viking movie. It's just a big, fucking crazy Viking movie filled with incredible action, over-the-top characters. If you are familiar with Robert Eggers' very minimal style and very anal in terms of what he wants to get historically correct, you're familiar with this kind of stuff. He did The Witch, and he did The Lighthouse, and now The Northman. Alexander Skarsgård is the lead in it, and Ethan Hawke is in it, and Willem Dafoe. And by the way, Nicole Kidman is phenomenal in this movie. And I thought Nicole Kidman, after that stupid-ass Lucy and Desi movie she made last year, which was a piece of shit, and the joke that everybody has made about that ridiculous AMC movie promo that she's in, all of that is forgiven. She's amazing in The Northman. The Northman is a big, bold, beautiful fucking adventure movie. It is a balls-out fucking sword and sorcery Viking movie. Made me feel like I was back in high school again in the 80s, watching Conan the Barbarian and all the other big sword and sorcery epics that came out then. It has that feel to it, only it's bigger, it's more accurate, it's incredibly well photographed. I loved this movie. I love Robert Eggers. And number 15 on the best list of 2022 is The Northman. Number 14 is the best Batman movie ever made, Matt Reeves' movie The Batman, with Robert Pattinson as Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Andy Serkis as Alfred, Paul Dano as the Riddler, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, John Turturro as the main sort of mafia villain. The darkest, if you can get darker, the darkest but most realistic version of the Batman story ever. It's the best Batman movie ever made. It is a crime drama that kind of evokes really, really dark film noir, and it really echoes stuff like Seven. It has a lot more to do with movies like Seven than it does with that. It's so much better than the pompous, stupid fucking Christopher Nolan movies, and it's so much better than the shit that Joel Schumacher did. It is without question, I think, the best interpretation, the most realistic, the most emotional, and the best use of music. Michael Giacchino's score is amazing. They use Nirvana beautifully in it. They use Ave Maria beautifully in it. It is a great movie. Robert Pattinson is fantastic as Bruce Wayne and the Batman. Zoe Kravitz, the entire cast is phenomenal. Everybody's great in it. It was the biggest surprise of the year for me because I did not want another dark Batman movie, especially after those goddamn Christopher Nolan pieces of shit. The last thing on earth was that I wanted was another dark fucking Batman movie. 3 hours long. I went in with the lowest expectations possible. 20 minutes in, I was like, okay. And by the time it was over, without question, one of the best movies of 2022, easily, and the best Batman movie of all time. So that's number 14 on the list, The Batman. Number 13 is Alex Garland's Men, a movie that everybody hated, and I don't give a fuck if you hated this movie or not. Could not care less how many people hated this movie. It was ripped apart when it came out. It clearly will not be, you will not see this on any other best of 2022 lists. I guarantee you that. It's from A24, again, and there are people who hate the studio A24 because they're fucking stupid. A24 doing, again, remarkable genre work. They are not just doing horror movies, they're doing a lot of other stuff, and you'll see, there's more A24 on my list. But Men is this insane movie with Jessie Buckley. It's a hard movie to describe. It's a woman who stays at this place and is terrorized by different men. It becomes very, very weird and supernatural and very surrealistic. If you're familiar with Ex Machina and Annihilation and some of the other stuff that Alex Garland has written, you know that this guy can kind of go crazy, ape shit, and very conceptual. And this movie, the last 15 minutes of Men, if you thought the last 15 minutes of Annihilation was weird and like, what the fuck is going on? Wait till you see the last 15 minutes of Men. I love Alex Garland. I think he's a terrific writer. He's written a bunch of movies before he started directing that were good. And the movies that he's directed, he's knocked them all out of the park. He's 3 for 3. Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men. This guy, I can't wait to see what he does next. One of the most blazingly original, ballsy filmmakers and writers on the planet. And fuck what everybody else says about this movie. Don't listen to anybody else. Men, one of the best movies of 2022. Number 13, in fact. Here's another one that everybody hated. Number 12. The 12th best movie of 2022 is Andrew Dominik's Blonde. And fuck you if you didn't like this movie. Everybody was like, oh my God, how dare they take the memory of Marilyn Monroe. It's terrible the way that Marilyn is treated and the way that this movie is just, there's like a weird pro-abortion or anti-abortion sentiment to this, and there's rape scenes in it, and how dare they take Marilyn Monroe and treat her like this? Well, first of all, the idea of this movie is to make you feel like shit. That's what Andrew Dominik is doing. Andrew Dominik, the target of this movie, of Blonde, which, by the way, is based on Joyce Carol Oates' novel. It is not a non-fiction biography. It's a fucking novel that takes the Marilyn Monroe image, the stuff that we've conjured in our heads as asshole fans, and explores that. This movie's supposed to make us feel like shit. It's supposed to make us the demanding fan, the people that want the image, and what that really means. It's brutal. It takes no prisoners. It's almost 3 hours long. When it's over, you feel like shit, and that's the point. All of us who have been like these ridiculous, stalky-like fans, these people that, us, the fans who demand an image be what we want it to be, who demand the Marilyn Monroe be the Marilyn Monroe that she is, and what that does to a person. And in real life, Marilyn Monroe was fucked up. We all know that. She died young, she had drug problems, she had horrible history with men, and all of that is explored in the movie, but very, very symbolically, and not straightforwardly. Ana de Armas is unbelievable in the lead. I don't think she's going to get nominated again because everybody is like, Kate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh and fuck off and women talking. Get the fuck out of here. The work that she does in this movie is better than any of those fucking movies. She's great in it. Andrew Dominik has balls the size of church bells to make a movie this uncomfortable. But the point is, when this movie is over, you should feel like shit. We should all feel like shit. It's brilliant. It's beautifully photographed. It's artistic. It should be seen on a big screen, even though it was made for Netflix. But what he does with mixing up black and white, sepia tone, and color, Technicolor, and messing with the ratios on film, it's beautiful. It's dreamlike. and it's nightmare-inducing. And yes, it's relentlessly depressing. It is a chore to sit through. I've seen it twice. Not an easy movie to sit through. It falls under the category of maybe it's a movie you're only going to want to see once and never again, but it's great. It is a brilliant, completely misunderstood movie by all these people going, oh, well, it's this and it's that. No, it's not. And yes, you felt like shit when you watched it. Good. That's the point, because we are shit. We, the demanding fans, the people that just rip the souls out of celebrities, that's what this movie's about. It's a great film. Misunderstood. Oh my God, you didn't get it. You didn't get it. 12th best movie of the year, Blonde. Number 11 is an incredible film called Close, which is directed by Lucas Don't. It won the top prize at Cannes. It is, I think, getting a release at the end of the year, just a couple of weeks, and then so that it qualifies for Best Foreign Film or International Feature for the Academy Awards. It is a movie about adolescence and friendship between a 12 or 13 year old boys who may or may not at this point be gay, and it's about this relationship and how it's perceived through others, and it's about peer pressure and about not being able to deal with what you really are and who you really are. And it's not only about adolescence, it's also about guilt. It's about feeling, horrible about certain things that have happened in your life. And it is about that youthful moment where you're like, could I possibly be, are my friend and I more than just friends? And dealing with that, especially as a 12 or 13-year-old kid, and all of the pressures from the family and the friends and the homophobia that is closely associated with being a kid. It's a beautiful movie. It's a heartbreaking movie. And I guarantee you, when you watch Close, which is the 11th best movie of the year, you will cry. It's a great film. Okay, top 10. Here we go. Top 10. The 10 best movies of 2022. Number 10, David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future. David Cronenberg, obviously one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, one of my favorite directors of all time, who has directed several masterpieces, and this one is outstanding. It is David Cronenberg kind of returning to his roots, doing the weird sort of body horror that he's known for, the weird, like, gooey, slimy, pussy, bloody, kind of weird, cancerous, the horror movie is in your body kind of stuff. He goes back full on into this and does some of the great shit that he's known for, puts it all into a really interesting package, and I think makes one of the most politically potent and really great satires. Again, this is another funny movie. I mean, this is a funny movie. It's dark, it's twisted. Viggo Mortensen and Leah Sado and the brilliant Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart in Crimes of the Future, one of the best performances of the year. My second favorite supporting actress performance of the year. My first is Carrie Condon. You'll hear about that in a couple of minutes. But Kristen Stewart is unbelievable in Crimes of the Future, and so is Scott Speedman, my main man, Ben from Felicity. Fantastic in this. It's science fiction, it's weirdness, it's body horror, but it's about a lot of stuff. It's about art, it's about pretension, and it is about how we are changing and how technology is fucking with us. There's a lot going on here. It's a movie that is as important and potent now in 2022 as it will be in the future, and I'm sure that it's still going to be making grand statements 15 years from now when we watch it. Cronenberg goes back to his roots of body horror, makes one of the best movies of the year. Crimes of the Future, David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future, number 10. Okay, I kind of cheated with number 9. I kind of cheated because I took two movies and I put them in as one. Ty West's X and Pearl. They're two different movies, but I put them together. I cheated. I wanted to sneak in 21 movies in my top 20. But anyway, I don't care. I kind of count them together. X takes place in the 70s and Pearl takes place in the 50s, so they're Pearl is a prequel to X, and X is about a group of people in the 70s who rent out like this farmhouse on this little farm where this old couple lives to shoot a porno, and it's about the people who are making the porno, the director, the actors, the actresses, and how one of them really wants to be a star, played by Mia Goth, and about what happens with the crazy old people and an alligator and all kinds of crazy shit. It's a fantastic throwback to 70s grindhouse slasher horror, and it's fucking brilliant. And Pearl is the old lady in the movie X. It's her story. And Mia Goth plays Pearl, the young version of the old lady, who she also played in the movie. She played two roles in X. But this is the story of how the old lady became what she became in the movie X. So Pearl is the story of Pearl. And again, Mia Goth plays the role. And it's a completely different kind of movie. It's much brighter in tone. It's not a slasher movie. It is a character-driven sort of, again, a satire, but shot in a way that films from the 60s were shot. It's more like a satire of David Lean than Tobe Hooper. And that's what he's shooting for here. And the central performance by Mia Goth is phenomenal. It's one of the best performances of the year. And again, won't be recognized because people are too busy, blowing Cate Blanchett, Michelle Yeoh, and Rooney Mara, for women talking, and get the fuck out of here. Anyway, but Pearl is amazing, and X is amazing, and Mia Goth is great in both of them. She's become like a mega goddess now, especially in genre movies. She's in, speaking of David Cronenberg, which I was just doing, his son Brandon Cronenberg has a movie coming out in March. She's the star of it. She's become like an icon in the horror community, and I think one of the best actresses and most interesting actresses on the planet. She's in the fucking remake for Suspiria as well. Mia Goth is the shit. She's the real deal. She's hardcore. She takes a lot of chances. She doesn't give a shit. And she gives ballsy, fearless, fucking crazy performances. And her performances in X, and especially Pearl, are amazing. And that's one of the reasons why those movies combined are number 9 on my list. So X and Pearl, 9 on my list. Number 8 is Bardo, False Chronicles of a Handful of Truths. This is Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu's new film, which is sort of autobiographical. It's a 2 hour and 30-minute fantasia sent through the mind of this character that is basically supposed to be Alejandro. And it goes through his mind, and it goes into his thoughts. It talks about his career. It takes on it takes on all of the criticism and all of the things that have been thrown at Inarritu over his career. He takes it on, but does it in a very self-effacing manner. It reminded me a lot of. I mean, it's absolutely completely thinly veiled autobiography that Inarritu has made, but does it in a spectacularly brilliant, surrealistic, over-the-top, completely insane, and sometimes hard to follow. I've seen it twice, and I'm still finding new things in this absolute puzzlement of insanity. But I loved it. I think it's extraordinary. Darius Kanji's cinematography is the best cinematography of the year. The performances are all great. It goes between reality and fantasy and history. And it reminded me a lot of stuff like 8.5, 400 Blows. It's like when critically acclaimed Academy Award-winning directors go back and start looking at their lives, they catch a lot of shit for it, but it mostly reminded me of All That Jazz. To me, it's kind of a companion piece to what Bob Fosse did so brilliantly in All That Jazz. When All That Jazz came out, Bob Fosse caught a lot of shit for being self-involved and pretentious, and egotistical. People were like, oh my God, what the fuck? Who wants to watch that? And then now, 40-some years later, All That Jazz is considered a cinematic masterpiece, as it should have been back in 79 when it came out. And that's what's going to happen to Bardo. Bardo's an amazing movie. So that's my number 8. Number 7, God, I love this movie. And this is how good 2022 is, because any other year, this would have been my number 1 movie, or in the top 2. We're All Going to the World's Fair. One of the best directorial debuts of the year, and absolutely, without question, the best acting debut I've seen in decades. Anna Cobb is the lead in this movie, and she plays a lonely young girl who becomes kind of obsessed with going down that wormhole of watching YouTube videos and the weird videos that you can find, like your Slender Man videos and all of the weird internet challenges that people take on TikTok. And so this is about the We're All Going to the World's Fair challenge that this young girl, a teenager, who lives in, it basically takes place in the bedroom, her attic bedroom with her father, who you don't really see. And she's alone, she's sad, she's destitute, she's lonely, and she's trying to reach out and find some sort of connection. So she's using the internet and videos and all that kind of stuff. And it's a movie about loneliness. It's a movie about trying to connect. It is unbelievably, devastatingly sad. It's also creepy. It was advertised as a horror movie, and there are scary elements to it. But it's also a look at how dangerous and how lonely and how horrifying the internet can be, especially when you're lonely, you have a terrible life, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. All of that kind of adds up, and it's about this incredible portrait of this young girl. Anna Cobb's performance, this was her first movie, is easily one of the best debut performances I've ever seen in my life. She's amazing. The movie is powerful. It says so much about being lonely, about being a teenager, not just being a teenager, but also being a middle-aged man, because there's another connection that happens in the movie. And it so brilliantly portrays the shit-filled emptiness that people can get sucked into in this world of the internet. We're all going to the World's Fair. An astonishing directorial debut and the best acting debut in years. Anna Cobb, who, by the way, shows up in another movie that's on my list. So we're all going to the World's Fair. Any other year would have been probably in my top 3. Number 7 this year. Number 6, the 6th best movie of 2022. Darren Aronofsky's The Whale. Now, look, I know a lot of people who hate this movie, and I understand that. I know a lot of people who don't like Darren Aronofsky. I totally understand that. I unapologetically fucking love Darren Aronofsky. He is not subtle. What he does, he does not. It's in your face. It's like intense and ba 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 ba. And movies like Mother, which is one of my favorite movies of the past 15 years, and movies like Requiem for a Dream and The Wrestler and Black Swan and The Fountain. He is a guy that is not subtle by any means. I mean, his first movie was Pi, which is a movie that a lot of people are like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I watching this? My head's going to explode. And that's kind of how you feel when you watch a Darren Aronofsky movie. This is based on a play, so it's not originally his, but he makes it his. Everybody is talking about Brendan Fraser, who plays an obese man who is dying and wants to reconnect with people, but he still has hope for everybody. He's like the most optimistic guy in a really fucked up, horrible world, in a situation where he is just completely sickly obese and he's gonna die. Hong Chang plays his caretaker, and she's fantastic in it. Should be nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And all of the other performances are great. It's very play-like. It's all basically one setting. It all takes place in Brendan Fraser's character's apartment. Most of it does. Brendan Fraser, again, fantastic in it, but everybody's good in it. And the last 10 minutes of this movie destroyed me. I respond to Darren Aronofsky. I know a lot of people don't. I don't give a fuck. Say what you want about him. His stuff hits me on a very, very emotional level. I was a mess during the last 5 minutes of this movie, like The Whale, crying like a fucking baby. Brendan Fraser's great. He's phenomenal in it. It's a great movie. It's Darren Aronofsky. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. There's no in between. So I loved it. Number 6 on my list. Number 5, probably the best film directorial debut of this year. Even though, we're all going to the World's Fair is amazing. After Sun. After Sun is this astonishingly beautiful film written and directed by Charlotte Wells. It features Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio, and they play a father and daughter who are on this trip in Turkey. And it cuts between memories of the little girl remembering her dad and this time, and videotape that they recorded while they were on this trip. It becomes a real mystery about what is this relationship between the father and the son? Why is the father acting this, or the father and the daughter, I should say? Why is the father acting this way? What's going on? And it's left up to you to figure out. It is semi-autobiographical, Charlotte Wells, about her relationship with her father, and the two leads are unbelievable. They're great. And it again, another movie that has a killer ending where you're like, I lost my shit during the last 10 minutes of this movie. There are a lot of movies this year that came out where during the last 5 to 10 minutes, I was a goddamn mess. This is one of them too. After Sun is a beautiful, mysterious movie. I've seen it 3 times, and it takes on whole different meanings every time I watch it. It's a very ambiguous movie that leaves it up to you to apply the backstory. There is no easy answer. It's also told from the point of view, you find out that the older version of the little girl is watching these videos and thinking back, and you see images of her mixed in with the movie. It's a beautiful piece of work. It is visually magnificent, and it is emotional, and I loved every second of it. So After Sun. And again, these top 7 or 8 movies here could have been number 1 any other year. I'm not kidding. I love these movies very, very much, and any other year they could easily have been my number 1. So After Sun is number 5. Number 4, 3,000 Years of Longing, George Miller's follow-up to Mad Max Fury Road. bombed at the box office. Idris Elba, Tilda Swinton in this incredible fantasy movie about a woman who buys a bottle in a shop, and a djinn, genie is inside. She's wiping it and rubbing it, and he comes out and says, I'm going to grant you 3 wishes. And it is her basically saying, I don't believe in this. Why should I make these wishes? And it's basically flashbacks and moving around in different time periods about this genie, this djinn, played by Idris Elba, telling these stories about wishes that he has granted for 3,000 years and how those wishes were about dreams and longing and love and all kinds of stuff. And then it's about the relationship that's developed between Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. Visually magnificent, to say the least. Emotionally, I think hugely emotional. I cried during this one too. It's completely imaginative. It's wholly original. George Miller, again, proving that he is one of the greatest, most amazing filmmakers on the planet, has a cinematic mind that has no fucking equal. And as far as technically, there is rarely a better movie this year that came out from top to bottom. Everybody in it is amazing. There are sequences that are breathtakingly weird and beautiful and astonishing. It's emotional. It's original. It is weird. I loved every minute of it, and it fucking bombed. It bombed huge. And I knew it would, and a lot of people did, because, you're following up one of the most critically acclaimed and heralded and popular mega action movies of all time with Fury Road, with this really weird movie, surrealistic fantasy about wishes that's about thinking, and people were like, what is this? It's a great film. 3,000 Years of Longing is number 4. Number 3 is Bones and All. Luca Guadagnino's fantastic adaptation of a novel about basically cannibals in love on the run. It falls under the category of young lovers on the run. It's like They Live at Night. It's like Badlands. It reminds me a lot of Badlands. Terrence Malick, another Terrence Malick movie being referenced here. It features the amazing Teresa Russell and the incredible Timothée Chalamet, the love of my life. I love him very much. And Mark Rylance and a bunch of other supporting characters. It is a beautiful love story. That's ultimately what it is. But it's also a creepy kind of horror movie. It does not shy away from cannibalism. There are some very graphic, flesh-eating, bone-sucking scenes in the movie. But ultimately, it is a beautiful, rebellious story about love and youth and lovers on the run, running from authorities and their past, and trying to make a future for themselves. But they are cursed with this affliction of cannibalism. It's a beautiful movie. Again, this is another one. Jesus Christ, I've seen this movie 3 times. Sobbed at the end. It's another one. There's like 5 movies this year where during the last 5 to 10 minutes, I am sobbing like a baby. Bones and All, one of the most beautiful movies of the year without question. I cried my eyes out. And again, any other year, probably be number 1 on my list. An amazing movie, Bones and All. Number 3, the 3rd best movie of 2022. Number 2 is The Banshees of Inisherin, which is probably one of the only movies that will end up on most lists. This is the only one. This is the only one that I will probably find in common with a lot of other best of lists from colleagues and stuff. This is Martin McDonagh's latest movie, written and directed by the great Martin McDonagh, who made 7 Psychopaths, who made the great 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and reuniting the guys from his movie In Bruges. Brendan Gleeson and the phenomenal Colin Farrell and the incredible Kerry Condon are in this movie. It takes place in the early 20s during the Irish Civil War on an island in West Ireland, a small village of people, and it's about one guy not wanting to be friends with another guy, and it's about what happens when he decides that they want to sort of break up their friendship, and how it affects the 2 guys and how it affects the village and everybody around them. It's funny. It's real dark. It gets sometimes it's very sad. Again, it is incredibly well acted. It works on so many different levels. It is, it's Martin McDonagh, and this movie echoes back to Martin McDonagh's playwright days. This is like the Martin McDonagh that I first became familiar with through his old Irish plays from the 90s. And this one is as close to the playwright Martin McDonagh as he's ever gotten in making a movie. And I think it might be the best movie he's ever made. Brendan Gleeson is amazing. Colin Farrell, I think, should win Best Actor. I know everybody's rooting for Brendan Fraser. I'm rooting for Colin Farrell. And Kerry Condon, Best Supporting Actress Performance of the Year. And if someone from Women Talking wins, I may take hostages. Ridiculous. Carrie Condon is amazing. She plays Colin Farrell's sister. All the other incredible performances, the photography, the locations, the feel of it. It is funny and sweet and weird and dark and sad and lovely. It's an almost perfect movie. And again, in any other year, it would have been number one. So my second favorite movie of 2022 is Martin McDonagh's brilliant The Banshees of Inisherin. My favorite movie of the year, number one, the best film of 2022, is a movie that nobody saw, is a movie that barely got a release. It's now available on VOD. It's now streaming on certain places. I saw it as part of the Chicago Film Critics Festival at the Music Box in May. It got a very, very limited release for a week at the Music Box in Chicago and a couple of other theaters nationwide. Momentum, a very small studio production facility, picked it up and released it, and it's called To Leslie. And it is a true story. The guy who wrote it's based on the relationship that he had with his mother. And it is about a woman in Texas who wins the lottery. She is an alcoholic. She wins the lottery, $130,000, $160,000, and how happy she was and how amazing it was. And then you cut to 6 years later, she's blown all the money. She is in the gutter. She is in the throes and the darkest possible waves of alcoholism that you can find. She's lost all the money. She's an outcast. She's homeless. She is considered a piece of shit among everybody in the world. And Andrea Riseborough plays the lead, Leslie. And it's about her trying to get her shit together and battling alcoholism and battling the town that she lives in where she blew all the money and is known as the fucking drunk who blew all the lottery money and completely blew her relationship with her son, which she tries to rekindle with. Allison Janney is in this movie. Stephen Root is in it. Mark Maron is unbelievable in it. And she kind of finds an olive branch lent to her in the form of Mark Maron, who is a manager at this small motel. She gets a job there, lives there, and tries to put her life back together. And it's about redemption. It's about overcoming all the horrible things that you did as an addict. It is an incredible movie about addiction. I personally, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so this movie hit me fucking hard. Like when the first time I saw it, I couldn't talk afterwards. I had to actually walk around the block. That's the kind of effect. And again, this is another one. Destroyed me at the end. Fucking destroyed me to the point where I literally could not talk to people. I left the theater. It was at the Music Box. I walked around the block a few times, just kind of like getting my shit together before I went back to see another movie at the festival. And it is a movie that really knows alcoholism and addiction perfectly, treats it the way it should be treated. It is about second chances. It is about redemption. It is about trying to fix the shit that you fucked up while you were, under this disease of addiction. Andrea Riseborough is unbelievable in this movie. It is easily the best performance by a woman this year. You can take your Cate Blanchetts and you can take your Michelle Yeohs. They're jokes. Those performances are fucking amateur hour compared to what Andrea Riseborough does in this movie. In fact, every single performance by any actor or actress this year pales in comparison to what Andrea Riseborough does in To Leslie. Easily the best performance that any human has given this year. One of the best performances I've ever seen. It's a performance for the ages. No one, woman or man, was better in a movie than Andrea Riseborough is in To Leslie. It's an astonishingly beautiful, amazing, layered, deep performance. It's fucking amazing. She is the icing on the cake of an incredible film that will move you, that will make you sad, that is ultimately about redemption. If you've ever had anyone in your life, or if you have ever had to deal with addiction or alcoholism, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. It will. It's the most powerful movie of the year. It's the most beautiful movie of the year. The most emotional movie of the year. The best movie of 2022 is To Leslie. The best movie in a year of unbelievably great movies. Like, when movies were great this year, they were fucking great. This is the best of the lot. And Andrea Riseborough, who will be forgotten by the Academy, she's not going to get any recognition. One of these days, people are going to learn and they're going to go back and they're going to watch this movie too, Leslie, and they're going to watch Andrea Riseborough in that movie and go, holy fuck, did we actually give the Oscar to Cate Blanchett that year? Wait, did we actually consider Michelle Yeoh? Seriously? Really? After watching this? So years from now, people are going to catch up. They're going to catch up. This movie got distributed terribly. There was no money behind it. The studio behind it did not have the money to give it a big campaign. They don't have the money to give Andrea Riseborough the proper Oscar campaign that she deserves. It's the best performance that any woman or man has given this year, and it's swept under the rug. So, To Leslie, that's the name of the movie. If you've not seen it, get your ass to VOD now. Stream it, watch it, rent it, buy it. The best movie of 2022 is To Leslie. So there you go. My top 20 movies. Confess, Fletch, Bodies, 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 Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, You Won't Be Alone, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, The Northman, The Batman, Men, Blonde, Close. Then the top 10 are 10, Crimes of the Future, 9, X and Pearl, 8, Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, 7, We're All Going to the World's Fair, 6, The Whale, 5, After Sun, 4, 3,000 Years of Longing, 3, Bones and All, 2, The Banshees of Inisherin, and 1, To Leslie. So, tremendous year. Again, a lot of my movies didn't make other people's lists and vice versa. So there you go. All right, I will be cutting a video on the worst movies of the year as well. And you'll recognize a lot of those because a lot of those on my list of worst were on people's best. But anyway, those are the top best movies of 2022. Here's to 2023. And please check out my podcast. You'll get more movie reviews and all kinds of stuff there. So thanks for watching. All right, and on to movies for 2023.